Today's video is about how to crush the SAT test. And I'm going to tell you some things that are different than what you're used to hearing. And if you really want to learn, then just listen, okay? Because I want to help you and I'm going to tell you the truth. And I know more than other people. So when I say stuff to you that's different, you should listen. Because a lot of times these mediocre students will tell me, oh, well, you know, my teacher doesn't say that. Or I know a kid who's smart and doesn't do that. And they're like, dude, I come from Stanford, okay? The average SAT back in my day was like 1410. 99.99 percentile, okay? And I was an A+ student at Stanford, so I know a lot about school. I'm going to give you some background here. This is my father. He was a doctor. Here's his brother. He was like an engineer, and another brother was a doctor. And this guy in particular was very rude and nasty. They would come over for the holidays, and they would discuss books, and they would argue. And I was offended by the way he was so insulting to my father, insulting to me, and he was just totally sort of a jerk, all right? And for all the holidays, though, I would read books because I wanted to be ready to argue with him. He would just talk about a book. This is all about the SAT test, by the way. I just want you to know we're going to the SAT test, but you need this background story in order to develop the mindset that leads to improvement. So he would quiz us on a book he had just read the previous day to make himself seem like a know-it-all Mr. Smart Guy, but he really didn't know that much. My dad was way smarter than him. But as it may, that motivation to go to the bookstore with my father, my dad would buy 10 books for himself, buy 5 books for me, and I wanted to read books. When I went to wrestling camp as a freshman in high school, I was reading the book Bertrand Russell's History of Western Philosophy. Now, I could not understand the book. I can't remember a single thing from it, but I wanted to be like my father. My father was reading the book, so I said, let me read that book too. And I went to wrestling camp. All the other guys are like, what the hell are you reading? What kind of a book is that? Little freshman. So even though I was not a good student in high school and I was not a good student in grade school, I did admire smart men who read and talked about books, and I did read a lot, even though I didn't know what the hell I was reading. I read all these novels of English literature like Thomas Hardy, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, The Mayor of Casterbridge, Jude the Obscure, all this stuff, and I didn't understand any of it, but I was still reading. So my vocabulary was good, my ability to spell was good, even though I had no emotional maturity to make sense out of any of those books. I just wanted to read them and be like my father, and then we would watch the BBC channel when those English literature movies would come on, okay? So that's going to become relevant to it. What I'm trying to say here is even if you're a lousy student in school, if you read a lot, you will develop a very sophisticated vocabulary because, what percentage of the population reads on their own? About 5%. So if you're one of those people, you're going to be in the top 5%, okay? So you want to make reading a habit. Here's a picture of me, and again, I'm teaching you how to crush SATs, how to get 99 percentile. So this is not baby talk. This is not get a B at junior college. This is how you become a dominant student. I was a sophomore in high school in this picture, and then here's I think when I'm a junior in high school. I was a very dominant wrestler. I was just strong, talented. Even though I didn't have much coaching, I was beating the crap out of everybody, and I had a chance to become a national champion. But I got injured. Okay, and then that started to break my heart, and I couldn't compete my senior year in the high school season, and I was real heartbroken. I was very popular with my friends because everybody likes an athlete. Here was my girlfriend, and she was like something out of a dream, okay? She ended up going to Juilliard to become a professional musician, and I, in my mind's eye, knew. I was real popular because I had been a former great athlete in my high school until I recovered from my injury, but I also knew if I'm ever someday going to attract women like this. She wasn't just gorgeous, she was also super nice, intelligent. She was good in every way. And what I'm trying to say is, I knew if I'm going to attract women like this, I must also be some type of very, very high achieving, high status man. So because I couldn't wrestle with my injury, I go, gosh, I got to get serious about school. Up until then, I never took an honors class. I could care less about school. I would try to get a decent grade so my parents don't bug me. I can go out on the weekends. But I did not have any sense. I had envisioned for myself become a national champion at the college level, NCAA, and be a college wrestling coach. That was my goal in life. But once I got injured and I started to realize, oh my God, I might never be a good athlete again, I need to become serious about school. And my father was a doctor, and I kind of had this idea of everybody thought my dad was so great, and I was just a low-life little high school scumbag. And I'm like, my daddy's kind of a little bit stuck up. Someday I want to be, a big shot of some sort. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to be a big shot of some sort. So what happened was I met these other guys who had done really well on the SAT. Some of them had scored in the 1300s and the 1400s, and I'm like, wow. way, way better than me. I didn't do so well when I took that SAT because I went out the night before. It meant nothing to me. My self-image was I'm an athlete. The SAT is irrelevant to athletes. Why should I care? I didn't study for it at all. Again, I stayed up late the night before, just took it cold, and whatever happens, happens. Okay. But once I was, a senior, and all these guys had done a lot better than me, and I knew I might never be an athlete again. I'm like, God, I got to get good at this. Okay. And the reason I'm talking about all this psychological stuff is that the number one predictor of whether or not you're going to improve is the intensity of your purpose. So you have to get yourself into this mindset. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to push myself. Because once you get that, that's where rapid improvement comes from that intensity of purpose. This is it. Burn the boats. I'm going for it. All right? The person who is strongly motivated will seek ways to improve and make the effort. You also need like the Carol Dweck growth mindset. What that means is an appreciation that it's possible to improve. Because the SAT test is in a sense used as an IQ test. And the colleges all consider it an IQ test. They pretend it's not an IQ test, but they all use it as an IQ test and they know it is an IQ test. Okay? So how well you do on an SAT test is a pretty good predictor of how well you're going to do in college. So you might as well get in the habit of preparing for it because it'll give you a better sense of what you're capable of doing academically. And the big secret about IQ is all the scumbag college professors tell you can't improve IQ. They're a bunch of liars. And that comes out of this mindset that the poor people are worthless, that the poor people, it's impossible to improve them. They're hopelessly stupid. They just belong in some minimum wage job and they're never ever going to improve. That is completely untrue, okay? By the way, my mother was born in a barn, okay? Just like Jesus Christ was born in a barn, okay, in a stable. And her family had a bunch of people who were very successful academically, despite being poor as dirt, okay? My father grew up on a dirt floor as well. All right, I tell you that because being poor is not an excuse for not becoming educated. It's pretty cheap to go to a used bookstore and buy a book. It's free to go to the library and buy a book. The secret to getting educated is to read books, okay? And to try to have, maybe nowadays there's YouTube. There was no YouTube when I was growing up. So at least if you read, that's how you develop your mind. Okay, and if you got an intelligent friend to talk to, an intelligent teacher or coach, that's wonderful. But you also have to realize a lot of things you have to do them by yourself. So anyways, once I understood that if I'm ever going to have a nice girlfriend like this again, I better make something of myself. And I knew I could do something because I had intensity. I just had to figure out what it was. All right, so if you just study more for the classes you're taking at school, that's good, but it's kind of low yield. If you just read more on your own in general, that takes time to develop, but you will develop a much better vocabulary, get a higher verbal SAT. I would call that low to moderate yield. The two highest things you can do to improve your SAT score is to, number one, buy one of those SAT test prep books and just start going through it. Go through all the vocabulary, learn all the synonyms and antonyms, do all the math problems, build up your math skills so you've got the basics to function. It used to be about algebra level. One of the most powerful things you can do is have good time management. What that means is simplify your life. When you've got those last couple of months before SATs, don't be going out on the weekends, hardly ever, one night a week at the most, maybe just 2 nights a month or something. You want to be studying. If you're studying on the weekends and no one else is good, then you're getting ahead of them, okay? You don't want to waste any time. Go through your entire day, write it out on a paper every 30-minute interval, and say to yourself, am I getting the most out of my time? Don't do anything that wastes your time. Don't do anything with head trauma. Don't be hitting a soccer ball with your head. That lowers IQ, okay? Don't be drinking any alcohol, not one drop, all right? Avoid any other bad habit that's going to take you away from studying, okay? And crank through those test books with an intensity of purpose, goal-driven. And I took the SAT test 3 times, I think. And each time I retook it, my score went boom, way up, a whole bunch, hundreds of points. So you can dramatically improve, which is improving your IQ. Now, all these college jerks will tell you can't improve your IQ. They're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about, okay? I know far more about education than they do at the highest level, okay? I got perfect scores on my residency boards, all right? First in my med school class. I know a lot about intense academic competition. And I'm teaching you these things because a tremendous number of people have unlocked academic potential. But in order to unlock it, you need to do this psychological, philosophic stuff because that's what leapfrogs you ahead of people that previously used to be ahead of you. Study on vacation. Study on a weekend. That's how you catch up to people. That's how you get ahead of them. If they're studying 4 hours a day, you study 8 hours a day. They're studying 5 hours a day, you study 10 hours a day, and you will progress more rapidly than them. Okay. You could go to a test prep class. I didn't want to at the time. I didn't need it. But some people like that. If you like that, go ahead. I was pretty happy to study on my own. As soon as you wake up in the morning, start studying. And I got a whole bunch of other videos on study skills. But I think the key things I wanted to get across in this video today was intensity of purpose, a philosophic mindset. Someday I'm going to be a great doctor or scientist, and therefore I want to be able to do well in school, and I want to be able to learn anything they put in front of me. I will crush it. Okay, I wanted to get to the point where, and I did get to that point, but at this time I was kind of a young guy just getting started. But that mindset, someday I'm going to be a high status man. I want to be able to keep this girlfriend, or maybe get a new one someday if she ever breaks up with me, which she eventually did. But I did end up having great women a lot of times in my life. Like right now, of course, she's over there cooking my dinner. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful.